You're good to start. 1, 2, 3, check volume. Okay, we're here. Good evening, everybody. This is your librarian, hostess with the mostest, Eileen Kramer, and welcome to Walking Stick Library. We've got a show for you tonight. Don't we always have a show for you tonight? I'm going to go check whom we've got in the house. And this is a Sunday night. We might be playing to an empty house again. I do try to promote us, but it doesn't always work. And tonight we're going to do a little continuation of last night's show. We were working on Phantom Limb in honor of poor Captain Ahab and Moby Dick. We looked at the neurology of it, the possible therapy of it. We didn't look at the psychology of it. It only touched on it a little bit. We don't want to touch on it a little bit. We want to go to API Psych Info and do the rest of that search. In addition, we are doing, and Ozora, my assistant, is here. You can't see her. She's up on the desk since I got this new setup. And I'm sitting up instead of on a cushion on the floor. I'm now sitting on a stool. Believe me, it's much more comfortable. And since I got this new beautiful setup, we are, you don't see much of her, but she's here, very much giving me lots of moral support. I wouldn't exactly call her an audience. We have to do some more feline things. That's what she says. Right, Ozora? Are you purring? You're not going to tell me. You're going to groom yourself and keep all that nice fur bright and white. She's got a lot of white fur. Anyway, back to where we were. That's one thing. The other thing we're doing tonight was inspired by Exposing Vax on Clouthub. And you can let me bring down my curtain and minimize, and we can see it here. This over here. This is called Exposing Vaccines. And somebody's out there trying to break in. Gish galloping wonderfully. I don't know his name yet. The person who does all of this, we could find out. He's got a URL. I don't know who runs it. We'll find out. Jonathan Otto is whom we have. Well, I used to see a lot of his stuff in my inbox. And all I can say is, let me get this moved. This is a pain in the tail. I had a wire stuck in my ear. Okay, all I can say, I used to get a lot of his stuff stuck in my inbox, is that he's not a doctor, and he is a champion Gish galloper, and we're just going to take little bits of him and we're not going to eat this video to bits. We're just going to take one little piece. But that's later. In the meanwhile, we are going to do psychological aspects of Phantom Limb. Let me get our Phantom Limb back up. This is being a little slow. Just give it a second. We had done most of this last night, but for some reason, we never got over here. Let's do it better. This area over here. So, let's make some space and let's get some circles. And what we're looking for is I love this when it does that. That is the coolest thing since sliced bread. What we're looking at didn't quite come out even, so we'll even it up just a bit. And what we're looking for is, well, I get very good at this after a while. We don't care about the pain. We care about, the idea of what people think of it. And we are looking at now the reason this is I'm going to change the color too. The reason I have it a different color and in brackets is this is going to be implied by our choice of database. If you want OT, you go to Cinol. If you want medicine, you go to Medline. But tonight we are going to APA Psych Info to get the psych. And we may even get some qualitative studies that are full of stories. But that's where we're going tonight. Okay, let's get a library page. And I'm going to check, see if there's anybody I need to welcome into the house. Nope. And I'm going to go to GSU Library. And we already know. We're going to skip this box because we want APA Psych Info and APA Psych Info only. They do have subject headings. Good subject heading-y goodness. And we scroll down, all the way down to APA Psych Info. And all we have to do is two things, whatever lets us in. We can look to see if they have a subject. Now here they have the APA Thesaurus of Psychological Terms. Everybody else is Medline 2024, Cinol subject headings. Now we have this long, pretentious one. And we're going to look for phantom limb. Because if they have it, we'll take it. They do have it in the plural. We'll take it. We'll make it a major concept. We'll add it. And we'll search it. And they use MM also, even though that's a Medline thing. We click search. And this is somebody's dissertation. And I don't know the date on it. And it's not necessarily, it is 2025. What is the date on this? Oh, that's in Turkey. That's not going to help. I was hoping we would get one we could chase, just for fun tonight. Okay, this one we saw earlier. Neurocorrelates of phantom motor execution. And here we have phantom limb syndrome from pathogenesis to treatment, a narrative review. This is in Neurological Sciences. We have not seen this. We're going to click linked full text and hope we have a copy. And again, this is going over old ground, but it's on target. This would be the example. And here they give you a review. And by the way, a review is a collection of articles. It's a secondary source, but a really good one. And if you are writing a paper for your English class, it's great. If you're writing a paper for your neurobiology class or one of your OT classes, not so good. If your professor says, I want a research article, you don't want a review. But if you are a person who has, just is writing an English paper, this is probably the best you can get. And here they think a bunch of things happen. And here you're something in the nervous system happens to create the thought of to create the feeling of a phantom limb. And here's how they went and hunted down the data. This is how they hunted down the data, and then they talk about how it works. I like the diagrams. If you were doing a PowerPoint, you could take this and hold down and if you're in Windows, it's Start Shift S. If you are in Mac, on a Mac, I believe it's Command 4. So it's Start Shift S on this machine. It goes dark. I get the snip and sketch. I can snip the whole thing. And later on, I can put this into a PowerPoint if I'm giving a presentation. And I'm going to call this Good for Presentations. But you can do that. You just have to credit where it came from. You're just going to show it in a classroom. If you were showing this at a conference or putting this on the web, you might need to ask permission. But for just classroom use, you're fine. And if you're going to put it on the web via iCollege, which is the University System of Georgia's version of Blackboard. Also called Blackboard, Desire to Learn. It has a few other names. If you're using Moodle, if you're using Coursera, you're using some kind of a walled garden content management academic scheme for your courses, and you want to put it online inside the walled garden, again, that works like a classroom. So I'm not a copyright lawyer, but this is generally the way things have worked. And I'm kind of craned off to the side to read this, and it talks about different ones. Different studies here. There may be a way to turn this, but I end up turning me instead. And here's another great picture. Okay. And that's a beginning. And then there's more stuff, and then there was stuff at the end. Let me show you that. Because out here at the end, there are 73 cited references. So if you found this as your first article, you could walk your way through this and pick up the articles by clicking on the blue. And sometimes it works, and sometimes you go clunk or hit a paywall. In this case, it worked. And always look at the dates on anything you pull this way, because they'll always be older. I don't have a date on this, which worries me. Share, favorites, permissions, download, site. Okay. I still don't get a date on this. Let's have a better look. (2021). Okay, so that would be still, within range of being pretty recent. You're going to like things to be all bright, shiny, and new, because that's the way most of us think. And again, more of these. Apparently this is a big psych thing. And it's still in the muscles. These are all very new. Here's one with and I itch, I'm sorry. Here is, I'm going to fix this so it's more comfortable. Excuse me. This has a band on the back, and if it's under my ponytail, it's a lot more comfortable. Okay, this is one that's 2024. Apparently there's been a lot of research on this, and they do use virtual reality therapy for phantom limb. It's one of the really useful things for digital twins. And here they do an EEG and use pain suppression and neurostimulation. They're using neurostimulation to suppress pain, and they're looking at the EEG. And here's another one with virtual reality training. Most of these are very, very, very new. So this is really nice. We didn't have to restrict by date. And I don't know what interoceptive is. I know what proprioceptive is. So we're going to look that up. Let me get this, and we'll try. Can I have 100%, please? Thank you. And we always want to do our little bit of slop prevention. So how do I draw them so nice? The computer helps. We are looking for interoceptive. Somebody made the color wrong, and that was me. And the way we de-slopify this is we're going to just skip the slop at the top. Skip the slop at the top. And this is all we're going to do in Google. We want a definition because I don't know what it means. I think it means feeling inside, feeling of yourself inside. Proprioceptive is sensing your environment, sensing where you are in your environment, particularly feet on the ground. If I'm walking on rough ground or climbing stairs, I need my proprioception, big time. And I need it more than most people because I do not have any depth perception. My eyes do not work together. I have no binocular vision. I've never had it. Well, I had it before I was 2.5 years old. And I remember losing it because I lived in New York City with my parents. We were in Queens, and there were subways. And when you have no depth perception and you're a little kid, everything either becomes flat or infinite. You really don't have a black and white. As you get older, your brain will estimate how far things are, and you will have distance put into your world by learning. But if you haven't learned, you don't know. And the subways became giant pits down which I could be shoved. I was sure of it. I used to dream people were pushing me down subways. It was scary as hell. That's somebody who can't judge distance. I couldn't have told my parents I couldn't judge distance because I didn't know. But I sure as hell knew those subways were infinitely deep, bottomless black holes. And I was going to get shoved down one in my dreams. And that was one of my formative experiences. I had lost my depth perception. Little did I know. And I formed my left-right orientation without depth perception. I did a lot of things without it. I never got it back. I did get back my eye that nearly went blind. My right eye nearly went blind when I was a little kid. I didn't know that. I shut it off. My brain used the other eye. Only when they patched it did I know that I could hardly see. When they patched my left eye, did I know that my right eye could hardly see. Nobody told me. Anyway, we will look at that at some point. Some point when let's get to where we had it. And I'm going to check this again while we're here, as long as I'm this disorganized. I am so organized. Let's make sure that's where we can see it. Okay. So where were we? I had no ability to see distance after I was 2 years old. I mean, I could judge distance by experience and by perspective and by shadows, which is what I do. But one of the things I use a lot more than other people is proprioception. I found this out when I broke my foot. And suddenly, one foot could not feel the stairs. And we used to go to these meetings these curriculum committee meetings carrying these big loose leafs under my arm. Well, I couldn't see the stairs below me if I carried the loose leafs. And I suddenly could not feel the stairs with one foot. I didn't bring the loose leafs for a couple of weeks when my foot was broken because I could not negotiate the stairs without my proprioception and without my direct vision right below me. And that's what those loose leaves blocked. And yesterday walking out on the ice and snow, I had to be very aware of how the ground felt under me. Very, very, very aware. More aware than most people, I think. So what we're talking about here is compensating. And I've been compensating my entire life. And compensation works great until it doesn't. And lots of little kids run around compensating. I guess they still do. I'm not the only little kid that ran around compensating. This used to be a great topic in my family because there was another kid up the road who was an excellent soccer player, but who had some kind of macular issue. He was missing a lot of his central vision, and he was still playing soccer amazingly using his peripheral vision. And here I was. I had no problem learning to read and write. I had wobbly eyes, one eye, mixed dominance, the whole 9 yards. Yet I was a terrific reader. So the neighborhood was full of little kids with visual issues who compensated. Now, whether that's European genetics or whatever, we don't know. In my case, it is genetic. Very, very, very genetic. But because other people in my family have had this. And they've also had the things that go with it, which I have. One day we'll do a really good search about this. So anyway, let's look up interoceptive. That's what we came for. We got nice and sidetracked, and that's good. We are looking for interoceptive and definition. Remember, the and is usually implied in Google, but I like to add it because we're thinking about it. This is what we want to avoid. This is Wikipedia. It's done by humans. Yes, you could do interoceptive and or interoceptive and Merriam-Webster. So we get a human. Interoception is a collection of senses providing information to the organism about the internal state of the body. Proprioception is the external state of the body, and let's check that one out too. And where did they get this from? Interesting. One day we're going to do more looking at that. And they say here that interoception can be both conscious and subconscious. It encompasses the brain's process of integrating signals relayed from the body into specific subregions. So if you are missing a leg, your stump can still say, hey, there's a leg here, and send it to your brain. And how are you going to know it isn't right? So let's look up proprioception, because I was talking about that. Proprioception is the sense of self-movement, force, and body position. So being able to know that you're standing on rough ground is proprioception. Believe me, when your foot's in a cast, you lose a big piece of it. Okay. So this would make a lot of sense now that we understand it. And this is probably along the lines of what we want. There is an ongoing discussion on the relevance of brain reorganization following amputation for phantom limb pain. recent attempts to provide explanations for seemingly controversial findings, specifically maladaptive plasticity versus persistent functional representation as a complementary process, acknowledged that reorganization in the primary somatosensory cortex is not sufficient to explain phantom limb pain satisfactorily. Here we provide theoretical considerations that might help integrate data reviewed and suppose a possible additional driver for the development of phantom limb pain, namely an error in interoceptive predictions to the somatosensory sensations and movements of a missing limb. Finally, we derive empirically testable consequences based on our considerations to guide further research. That's complicated, but if I were taking neuro or very motivated, this might be okay. And I'm going to open it this way because I want to see the subject headings they used. They don't use very much. We did as good as we could, as we could do. Clunk. Some of them are going to go clunk no matter what we do. Okay, we've got a few more. Okay, reassessing referral of touch following peripheral deaffination, the role of contextual bias. I don't know what that is, but it might be interesting to look at. Stimulation of perineal nerves reveals maintains somatosensory representation in transtibial amputees. That means your brain still thinks there's a leg there. Humans are complicated. I wonder if animals have phantom limb pain. We never ask them. And there's lots of tripod cats walking around. The association of localized pain sensitivity in the residual limb and prosthesis use in male veterans with transtibial amputation. And there's more mirror therapy. There's calcitonin. And lots of these here. I am curious, do animals get this? And I guess you would know because they would lick the phantom limb. If a Zora, God forbid, became a tripod, she'd be licking her phantom limb. Or maybe even washing with it. We could find that out. Going to take us way back. We hadn't thought about this, but is this only a human thing? And I guess the creatures that you would worry about are dogs and cats. We can find out. Hello, Emmanuel. My other assistant is coming by. He is going to jump up onto the table. Come on up. Join us. Okay, let me bring us back to Medline. This would be a Medline search. And I guess I'm wondering this because my animals are here. Let's get google.com. Let's get GSU Library. And what we're going to search is, let me get some more space. And I need to do a lot of cleanup in aisle 9. Actually, I don't need to do very much. What I need is a pencil. And possibly I would need here cats, dogs. I think they just shoot the horses. Animals. There may even be an animal model. They may go around amputating little rats' legs. How horrible. Emmanuel is in my lap. I have both my assistants helping me tonight. This is wonderful. So let's go to Medline and do this, since Medline handles all our veterinary stuff. We need to go to Medline tonight and try this out. And let's try it. Let's go to M. Let's run down the screen and let's click this. And we're going to go to Mesh 2024. And I'm not sure this is going to work. Are animals allowed to have a phantom limb? I don't know, so I'm going to do this and set it up like that. And the reason is that I'm not sure that we think that animals might have it. Okay. All right. Look what we have. Well, animals can get it. This is in Chinese, but what I'm looking for is animals as a choice. And I'm going to put this in with M and. Let's try it now. Okay. We know rats get it, so there are cats who do get it. Okay. They're using rats. Post-amputation pain is currently managed unsatisfactorily with neuron-targeted pharmacological intervention therapies. Non-neuronal pain mechanisms have emerged as crucial factors in the development and persistence of post-amputation pain. Consequently, these mechanisms offer exciting prospects as innovative therapeutic targets. We examined the hypothesis that engaging mesenchymal stem cells would foster neuroimmune interactions, leading to potential reduction of post-amputation pain. We utilized an ex vivo neuroma model for phantom limb pain patient to uncover the oligonucleotide. Oligo means little, deoxy means without oxygen, nucleotide is a piece of DNA engaged in primary human MCS to promote anti-inflammatory microenvironment, reverse translation experiments, blah, blah, blah. Thus, an in vivo rat model, IMT 504, exhibited strong efficacy in preventing autotomy, self-mutilation behaviors. This is how they know a rat has a phantom limb. It bites it. It bites its stump. This effect was linked to substantial accumulation of MSCs in the neuroma and associated dorsal root ganglia. So this is part petri dish, part ratty. Poor unhappy rats. So that tells you something right there. So they do rats. Choo! And again, here they're probably using rats, but we can check by looking in the subjects down here. And here I don't see any of it, but that's okay. Phantom limb pain refers to a pain in the body that has been amputated or deaffernated. You can get this, deaffernated means they've taken the nerves don't work. Like if somebody's paralyzed, they can still feel pain. It has often been viewed as a type of mental disorder or has been assumed to stem from pathological alterations in the region of the amputation stump. In the past decade, evidence has accumulated that phantom pain might be a phenomenon of the central nervous system that is related to plastic changes at several levels of the nerve axis, especially in the cortex. You still think you've got it, even if you don't. Your brain, the part of your brain that handles movement, not the part of your brain that's conscious. Here we discuss evidence for putative pathophysiological mechanism, but we cite both animal and human studies. So I am curious if we switch this around and do this. We're going to change words. So we're going to change words here and do veterinary. Does anybody care when they amputate a dog or a cat's limb? Oh my God. I feel terrible. Neuropathic pain in a cat post-amputation. So our little tripod cats aren't always so happy. Phantom limb pain is a form of neuropathic pain experienced in human patients who have had amputations. To date, there are no reported cases of phantom limb in the veterinary literature. A cat presented with signs consistent of neuropathic or phantom limb pain 42 days after iatrogenic sciatic nerve injury and 38 days after subsequent hind limb amputation. Multimodal analgesic therapy resulted in resolution of signs of pain. Nobody worries that much when tripod puss licks her phantom joint. They might even bite the imaginary limb. Cats being cats with their grittiness. Yeah, you would think. Cats seem to always be losing eyes and legs. If you hang out on Instagram, you will see cats are always losing eyes and legs. Targeted muscle reinnervation surgical protocol, randomized control trial in post-amputation pain. Let's see if our veterinary showed up here. Okay, let's see if do any more animal ones. These are surgical. Painful phantom foot of amputees, American Veterinary Medical Association Journal. This is very old, 1947, so it does exist. Doesn't have an abstract, and we're probably not going to be able to get it. But they must have amputated somebody. Some creature lost its foot. Probably a dog. Welfare of feline amputees. So our little tripod cats do get covered. Yes, they call them tripod cats. And let's see if we can find it, or at least view the record at the publisher's site. Hey, we got it. Look at that. We're being nice and slow, but that's okay. In cases where the post-amputation outcome is not satisfactory or where animals show signs of pain that is refractory to treatment, managing pain and identifying risk factors is fundamental to improving the welfare of affected cats. So my poor kitties could get it if they lost a leg. Everybody always says tripod cats are so happy, and I've known people who've owned them. Maybe they get it less than people. Cats are tough. Cats are gritty. They're not stoic, they're gritty as hell. Pathologically gritty. You would not want your cat's grit. They're paranoid, they're gritty, they're not virtuous angels. They're nice creatures, but they're different from us. And I am petting two hunch-ups at once. One hunch-up gets petted, the other hunch-up gets petted. People call this a loaf. My family came up with cat terminology before there was cat terminology. And they are hunched up beautifully, one on the desk and one on my lap. I've got my two assistants right here. I gotta kiss one, because he's right on my lap. I can't kiss the other one, but I can pet her. In cases where the post-amputation outcome is not satisfactory or where animals show signs of pain that is refractory to treatment, managing pain and identifying risk factors is fundamental to improving the welfare of affected cats. As part of the research into the welfare of feline limb and tail amputees, cats lose their tails too. We aim to characterize the feline amputee population of the UK and obtain information on owner perception of feline recovery and amputation. In humans, phantom limb phenomena are reported in up to 80% of people following amputation and can be extremely debilitating. The etiology is complex and not completely understood. Changes in peripheral and central processing stimuli have been documented. Conversely, in companion animals, the recovery and quality of life of amputees is generally felt to be good, with most owners reporting satisfactory life for their pets after amputation. There are a few case reports of neuropathic disorders in amputee animals and anecdotes of possible phantom phenomena, but no conclusive evidence. In cases where the post-amputation outcome is not satisfactory or where animals show signs of pain that is refractory to treatment, managing pain and identifying risk factors is fundamental to improving the welfare of affected cats. We have designed a questionnaire for owners of amputee cats, which we'll soon be sending to random selection of UK veterinary practices, along with further information on the study. We would be extremely grateful if colleagues would pass these questionnaires on to clients with amputee cats, since the kitties cannot speak for themselves. I'm impressed. I don't know about the rest of you, but I'm impressed. And if we were going to pursue this further, we would be looking for the following. And again, I like cats, but we could do this with dogs also. Would be a phrase. And the other one we would be pursuing is and the reason we would do this is that phantom pain is felt to be a human thing. Nobody asks the cat what they're feeling and they can't tell you. Maybe they just hold the phantom limb out of the way when they leap. Or they get up on their hind legs, or they do the things that cats generally do with a back leg. Or with a front leg. Which leg is worth more to you, a back leg or a front leg? By the way, there are some great feline double amputee videos on Instagram if you want to watch before we get further along. Take a quick Instagram break. That's an axolotl, and they're so cute. And I don't know where my cat videos all are, but we can try to find them. Following. That didn't work. Musibo, this is my one. Let me go back. Here we are. And if you want to see it, here is Muskibori. He is missing his back legs. He cannot leap. He also does not have great trunk control. There's a cat named Legendary who can lift that whole back end up. Somebody put a designer one on him. We can even listen to him meow. He's very cute. Missing his tail as well. So he's a triple amputee. And I also have in my following legendary cat. And legendary cat is a lot different. You'll notice.
Hi, I'm Legend, a double
he has much
amputee
better
and
back
hoarding
control.
survivor. Thank you for being with me on this journey where I learn how to be a cat, scratching furniture,
He can't leap,
and just
but he
getting
can
more
pretty much-
comfortable
he can
every day.
He often holds
Walking
the
on
back end up.
furniture and the couch.
This is a good one because it's showing his
Now
back
off
end.
I go to my
and it
safe
shows how he
space.
holds it up.
Whee!
You see, that's almost
Hi,
off the ground a lot of the time. Some of these are better than others.
Okay, IG, we need her help. Meet Allie, one of the only ones of my siblings still looking for a forever home.
Okay, that's a sibling. I want to show you him moving again without the tail. Because he has very good trunk.
On our troubles will be out of sight from now.
So yeah, cats make amazing stuff, but you don't know what's really going on in their heads. Okay, I'm gonna close my curtain for a minute. I'm hoping all of you are enjoying this as much as I am. Well, all of you are. Empty house. I'm not gonna complain that I have an empty house. Actually, I am. We do have a second half of this show, and hopefully this is gonna go well. It's a very different subject. Somebody on Clouthub is extremely upset because Bill Gates is paying money to to support the genetic modification of mosquitoes. There's a mistaken perception that if you can throw money around, you can get something for it. You can control the world. I wish it were that easy. Okay, down comes the curtain and let's have a look. I'm gonna clean up here a little bit because we need a clean space. And
likely brewing.
If you're wondering what the big and the pipe from Gates Foundation looks like, let me break it down for
no
you.
sound.
First,
Oh, why did that happen? I lost my sound.
you need to
Okay, that was something I leaned on, apparently. All right, we're gonna get this to the right spot. Don't be afraid. Okay, this is the right spot. Now this should make noise.
Likely brewing.
If you're wondering what the big picture stuff coming down the pipe from Gates Foundation looks like, let me break it down for you. First, you need to understand that Gates is in a desperate position, and for good reason. For decades, he wielded his immense wealth to buy power and influence, corrupting governments and institutions with shocking ease. But in recent years, the unelected global health czar pushed too far, crossing lines that even his allies couldn't.
Trying to make money from vaccines, and that's, a
Of control is finally beginning to crack. And this is precisely why Gates is so desperate to push his bird flu mRNA vaccine onto the global population, whether they consent or not. Given his precarious legal situation, Gates sees no other choice but to go all in. If he succeeds, the majority of the world's population could be wiped out, leaving the survivors enslaved under globalist control. This is what Gates going all in looks like. Gates-funded scientists in the Netherlands have spent millions of dollars of Gates' grant money to develop mosquito-delivered vaccines and GMO parasites. Turns out Gates wasn't joking when he released mosquitoes in an auditorium and let them fly around telling the audience there's no reason only poor people should be infected.
We'll let those roam around the auditorium a little bit. There. There's no reason only poor people should have the experience.
For years, the media have bent over backward to debunk claims that Bill Gates has been developing bioengineered viruses, vaccines, and GMO mosquitoes, designed to deliver them to humans without consent. Now, they've been exposed as never before. And we've got the details after this important message from our sponsor. A leading peer-reviewed medical journal has quietly confirmed what so-called conspiracy theorists have long suspected about Gates' activities. In a disturbing study...
Okay, we can get this. I have a copy of this. And when you look at it on a screen for 3 seconds, you don't read anything. So let me go grab my garbage pit where I keep all these goodies and do I not have this? No, I don't. Safety and efficacy, late liver stage, malaria parasite. Okay, let's get Google and we'll get this through GSU. Sorry about this. And a quick grab, and I can make this big enough for me to see. Okay. Lamers, Olivia A.C. Lammers. Lammers is the doctor. Late liver stage, attenuated malaria parasite. What we're doing here is a known item search. Late liver stage, attenuated malaria parasite, and Lammers. Lammers is the author, and what this looks like, if you did this with circles, is, and I'm a fan of doing everything in circles these days, so you get my circles every night, and we do this over and over again. What we're doing, all known item searches are Booleans. This is a lightning. We call this a lightning search because it's like lightning. And here we have the word from the title, late liver stage attenuated malaria parasite. And we have the author, her name is Lammers. The idea is to get only one. No synonyms, no nothing. If this works, it is a lightning search. That's your lightning bolt. Okay, let's go. If I didn't miscopy it, we are good. It wants me to log in, it always does. Our board hits. We're great, and we're spinning. Let me hit F5 to give it a little more kick. And it's slow as molasses in January. I'm going to do this in Google real quick because it's taking forever. There we are. And we have access. I can probably sign in with my institution. That's open access. It isn't showing it. But it doesn't have to show all of it because institutional sign-in via Open Athens, that's us. We're in. Okay, and we're gonna have to hunt for our late liver stage Don't you get sick of this? No, I'm a decent typist. Okay. Lots of things stand out here. But what stands out here once you stare at it is this word right here. Now, I know what it means, but if I didn't know what it meant, I could, let me make some room here, and go up to 100. I could go back here. I could go back here and do a Google search that looked like this. And over here, I could look for, that's a human put together dictionary. We like human things. We don't want slop. So we keep the slop from dropping by asking for something human and putting the two together. And this is another version of this, another lightning search. These known item searches get little lightning bolts next to them. And we could bring up Google. And we can put in attenuated and Merriam-Webster. And we ignore this and we go right here. Attenuated definition of meaning. It's coming from Merriam-Webster, not from the AI head. And lessened, I want everyone to see this. Lessened or weakened as in amount of force or magnitude. It wasn't that there was less effect or an attenuated effect. There was no effect at all. Medical, being or containing a pathogenic agent that has been altered to be greatly reduced or be of greatly reduced virulence. And pathogenic means it makes you sick. What does virulence mean? Ooh, the quality of being virulent, extreme bitterness or anger. The relative capacity of a pathogen, such as a bacterium or virus, to overcome a host's defenses and cause disease or damage. So if we've got an attenuated parasite, it is less virulent. It's not likely to make you sick, but it is likely to arouse your body's antibodies. You all see this? So, currently licensed and approved malaria subunit vaccines provide modest short-lived protection against malaria. Immunization with live attenuated Plasmodium falciparum malaria parasites is an alternative. This is similar to other live attenuated pathogen vaccines. This is a very old school method of immunization, but it's safe. It's an old, if you don't like mRNA vaccines, you should love this. Some people are not internally consistent. Jonathan Otto is not. And here we conducted a double-blind controlled clinical trial to evaluate the safety and side effect profile and efficacy of immunization by means of mosquito bites with second-generation, genetically attenuated, single knockout F. falciparum N54 parasite, sporozoite form with extended development into the liver stage. After an open-label dose escalation safety phase in which the patients were exposed to the bites of 15 to 50 infected mosquitoes, stage A, I hope they paid these guys. Healthy adults who had not had malaria were randomly assigned to be exposed to 50 mosquito bites per immunization of GA2, an early arresting parasite, or placebo bites. After the completion of 3 immunization sessions, 50 bites per session, God, these people must have been pincushions, itchy pincushions. They must have had a giant bottle of calamine in the place for these people to put on their bites. We compared the protective efficacy of GA2 against homologous P. falciparum-controlled human malaria infection with that GA1 and placebo. The primary endpoints were the number and severity of adverse events in stages A1 and AB, blood stage parasitemia greater than 100 P. falciparum parasites per milliliter after bites from GA2 infected mosquitoes, and controlled human malaria infection. This is a challenge trial. This is scary stuff, but nobody's in here who isn't a volunteer. And yeah, you would have informed consent. You'd probably have to take somebody to a place and have them bitten by these special mosquitoes. They'd probably put you in a room to be bitten and then let you out again. That would be my guess. I don't think they would let these loose on everybody. You couldn't. There are informed consent rules, but there's no informed consent rules if somebody signs a sheet. It says, I'll go in the room and get bit because I don't want to get sick with real malaria. I'd rather get a little tiny dose of it and get immunized. It's very old school, but it does work. I think they'll have to develop a better delivery mechanism. I think asking people to sit in a mosquito room and get bit to death is kind of nasty, but that's okay. It's interesting, it's gnarly, it's scary, but it's old school. I'd like something a bit more new school. So, up with the Miro board. And we're gonna move it along here. We always get more room on our Miro boards. I love the way these things are just like infinite. I have yet to see my Miro board get too big. And what I want to look at is actually, I have this here somewhere. Here it is. Gates Foundation partners, this is 2018, partners with Oxitec to combat malaria with genetically modified mosquitoes. This is a lot more exciting to me. And I'm interested in the self-limiting mosquito or the mosquito with Wolbachia in it. There's a bunch of them out there that are designed to reduce disease. So, what I really want are genetically modified mosquitoes. And I don't care if Gates is funding them or not. I don't care who pays for them. I don't care if your grandmother pays for them. Just checking. We're still empty house tonight, but that's okay. Okay. So what we're looking for tonight is, and we're going to make this we can put a wild card on this because we don't know if it's single or plural. And again, I get this from close reading most of the time. I want this genetically modified, and I want mosquitoes. We want to modify the things into extinction. Asterisk, because it could be plural. There are some fancy names for mosquitoes. And again, I don't know if those are some of the fancy, like Latin names for them. Being a bio major helps. Let me get my pen. We're going to put an and on this. And we could do this in the big box, or we could do it on Medline. I'm not sure all of this is going to be in with Medline's goodness. We could just do this since I know what I'm looking for, we probably could do this on the big box. We don't really need the subject headings all that much for this. This is just a nice topical search. I mean, it would would be great to knock out some of these mosquito-borne diseases by modifying the mosquitoes, and we could release them, and we wouldn't have, we wouldn't have to ask informed consent from the mosquitoes. They're still free to bite if they feel like biting and if they grow up enough to bite. So let's get a library search, shall we? And we're going to GSU Library, and we'll probably have to log in again. And we're going to be looking for hello. No, we don't want that. Modified and mosquito. That's all. We're going to run it right out on the big box. We haven't had a big box search in a long time, so it would be kind of fun to have it. Let's run it. And I have to sign in. Always. And it's being super, super slow tonight. This one's still spinning. Well, folks, this is what you get for going live. Okay. That's not what I want. That's what I want. We're going to skip this box and do Medline because this box is not being happy tonight. Something must have happened up in Athens, Georgia, which is where we get our Discover box from. That's so it's out at usg.edu, galileo.usg.edu. USG is headquartered in Athens, Georgia at the University of Georgia. It's good to know where everything is. It makes it much less of a black box. We're going to go to Medline with full text and run the same search because we can. Not because it's a better place, but because we want the mosquitoes to be genetically modified. And there we are. Okay. We have some that are sterile. This is sterile male technique. It doesn't like me. There's got to be more than this. Okay, let's go in here and see what the subject headings are. Okay. I see some of these. Culicidae genetics. Remember Culex from over here? Culex is Culicidae. That's a family level thing. And here they have the genetics. Let's grab it and see what happens. Okay. I don't see any of these. Let's try mosquitoes or mosquito vectors. I'm gonna run into here and we're gonna start the searches with mosquito and see what we can grab. I want all the mosquito species. I'm not particular. Mosquito use Culicidae. Go. And we have this as a major concept. And I'm interested in the genetics. Let's see what we get. Okay. Okay. All right, we can CRISPR edit those wonderful mosquitoes. I really want to control them. So I'm going to put in control. Excellent. Transforming malaria prevention and and control the prospects and challenges of gene drive technology for mosquito management. This is 2023. And this is one of the things they're looking at. In the era of insecticides and anti-malarial drug resistance, gene drive technology holds considerable promise for malaria control. Gene drive technology deploys genetic modification into mosquito populations to impede their ability to transmit the malaria parasite. This can be either through disruption of an essential mosquito gene or an association of gene drive with a desirable effector gene. Is a gene editing tool that precisely modifies vector DNA sequences and curtails the rate of pathogen transmission. So this is incredibly cool. And this is in Annals of Medicine. So this would definitely be a beginning. Let's see what else we've got. Movement of genetically modified insects for research purposes. Global governing bodies, a pathway for gene drive governance for vector mosquito control. Genetic control in historical perspective. India's genetic control of mosquitoes unit. Using gene editing, this is not in English, but you get the idea, it's in French. Selective targeting of biting females to control mosquito-borne infectious diseases. I'm going to grab this just for the heck of it, and then we'll refine this search. Primary and downstream sex determination signaling molecules have been identified in critical mosquito vectors. Third-generation sequencing approaches are enabling the assembly and analysis of repetitive sex chromosome regions. Transgenic CRISPR-Cas9 RNA approaches are enabling new methods to achieve sex separation and sex ratio distortion to help control mosquito-borne infectious diseases. So you can make sure they only have males. Okay, I loved this first article, and I love what they have here. And what we are looking for is gene drive technology. And Culicidae. And we have gene drives for malaria control right here. And this gets a mutation in that creates either all male mosquitoes or mosquitoes that can't bite, have the potential to address Africa's persistent gene drive modified mosquitoes, have the potential to address Africa's persistent malaria problem, but are still in the early stages of development and testing. Continuous engagement of African stakeholders is crucial for successful evaluation and implementation of these technologies. The aim of this multi-country study was to explore the insights and recommendations of key stakeholders across Africa. So we are definitely trying this out. We're going to try this out. This is exciting. Transforming malaria prevention and control. The prospects and challenges of gene drive technology for mosquito management. We have this one already. Population replacement gene drive characteristics for malaria elimination in a range of seasonal transmission settings, a modeling study. So that's going to be the math. Operationalizing stakeholder engagement for gene drive research in malaria elimination. How genetically modified mosquitoes could eradicate malaria. This is 2023. Let's get it to have a look. Nature's wonderful. Nature is the premier science publication, and if these don't work, we can always bite you with an old school vaccine. Hopefully they'll find some other way to give that to people, because all I could think of is that has one very big adverse effect. It's making me itch just thinking about it. And here's our beautiful article. And these are altering genes of mosquitoes could prevent them from spreading malaria. Malaria plagued people for millennia. It is referenced in ancient texts and has been even detected in Egyptian mummies that are more than 5,000 years old. During the 20th century, 150 to 300 million people died from this disease worldwide. And although technological medical advances have significantly reduced deaths over the past couple of decades, in 2021, an estimated 619,000 people died from this disease, which is caused by a protozoa, something with a nucleus that is very complicated. It's not multicellular, but it's as close to it as you can get without being. African countries are hit the hardest. The region is home to 96% of malaria deaths, with 80% of those being in children under 5 years old. As Bill Gates said, why should the poor just experience being bitten? It shouldn't be acceptable that children still die of malaria and that expectant mothers still get complications due to malaria. Malaria is caused by Plasmodium parasites that are transmitted from a healthy person by an Anopheles mosquito, often Anopheles gambiae, the primary vector in sub-Saharan Africa. Many approaches to malaria control focus on mosquitoes. Insecticide-treated mosquito nets, indoor sprayings of insecticides for insects have played a massive part in malaria reduction, but it still persists. We have great success over the past 20 years using bed nets and spraying, but those tools are not going to be enough to eliminate malaria, says Gregory Lanzaro, director of the Vector Genetics Laboratory at the University of California, Davis. Many researchers, including Lanzaro, are hopeful that part of the solution lies in altering the genomes of Anopheles mosquitoes. Scientists around the world are exploring how to make lasting changes to mosquito DNA that impair the insect's ability to transmit malaria, either by making them less hospitable to Plasmodium or by interfering with their reproduction to reduce or eliminate mosquito populations. Interventions of this kind have been in development for decades, but their use in the wild could now be just years away. Ecological and ethical concerns, however, about how these modified mosquitoes will be monitored and by whom remain the subject of active, contentious conversation. Since the 1950s, researchers have experimented with using radiation to damage the DNA of male mosquitoes. The intention is to render insects sterile, unable to reproduce in the wild, and thereby reduce the number of disease vectors. More targeted molecular approaches, such as those undertaken by biotechnology company Oxitec in Abingdon, UK, have been used to engineer Aedes aegypti mosquitoes, a species that transmits viruses such as Zika and dengue that produce female offspring that die just before they reach adulthood. The intervention could temporarily suppress wild mosquito populations by up to 96% in some regions, and there is a 1 down here. If I click this 1, we get here, and you can find this. So that's kind of cool. So far, these efforts have not had much success. The one obstacle is finding a good genetic target, says Maria Luisa Simões, a malaria researcher at the Institute of Tropical Medicine in Antwerp in Belgium. Genes often have multiple functions, so a well-intentioned change, such as deleting a gene that helps Plasmodium to thrive in a mosquito's gut, could have undesirable effects and make the modified mosquitoes unable to compete with their wild counterparts and therefore unable to spread their genes. The ones that are in the field have been there for millions of years. If you're releasing a mosquito that is already kind of weak, it will not make it. And these are members of a target malaria team, trial release methods for mosquitoes in Burkina Faso. So there they are, ready to go out and do their thing in their little box. A bigger problem is, however, is that the effects of these interventions are typically only temporary. When a modified mosquito mates with a wild mosquito, only half the young will inherit the modification. Over generations, each of which lasts just a couple of weeks, for wild mosquitoes, the number of insects with modifications would dwindle. For genetically modified mosquitoes to make a sustained impact in the wild, the chances of them passing on their modification needs to be more than 50%. Enter the gene drive. Gene drives were first proposed decades ago in the context of naturally occurring selfish genetic elements, portions of DNA that enhance their own transmission. One example is sequences of DNA called transponsible elements, and these are present in a wide range of organisms, including humans. Transponsible elements can replicate on their own, and I gotta kiss my assistant. He's so sweet. Integrate throughout an organism's genome, causing them to be passed on to offspring at rates much higher than 50%. The idea of using these portions of DNA to spread genes throughout populations of disease vectors such as mosquitoes was proposed in the 1990s. However, researchers hit a problem: transponsible elements, which would sometimes land in unfortunate places in an organism's genome. The consequences of interrupting an existing genetic sequence by adding a transponsible element can vary from the benign changes in pigmentation in the Mecta fish, for example, to the decidedly harmful. In humans, transponsible elements that insert themselves into certain genes linked to blood cancer, acute lymphoblastic leukemia, as well as bone marrow condition, Fanconi anemia. The problem for researchers working on mosquito control was that the transponsible elements would land somewhere in the insect's genome that was immediately lethal. We don't want that. We want them to live to spread it. After decades of trying to improve insertion of selfish genes, the advent of CRISPR-Cas9 genome editing in 2012 finally gave scientists the tool they needed. And that is cool. And there they're showing how this works. The gray ones are modified. The orange ones are modified, and you can see modification spreads slowly. But if you put it in this way, with the genome drive, there they go. And then the next question is to replace or suppress. And we're gonna catch our breath here. I'm gonna check in here, see if anybody ever got in. No, nobody ever got in. I'm gonna take us back and put down my curtain. And it has been a wonderful night. We will probably do more stuff with mosquitoes and with gene drives and such, especially on a night when I can't get topics. Clouthub is very incestuous, and you see the same stuff over and over. Jonathan Otto was a little breath of fresh air. He didn't know it. I may stick a piece of this in the comments and thank him, hoping that somebody will come in here, even if they come in here to heckle me. It's a little lonely, you know, but I put up with it. Have a great night. Love your info. Take good care of it. Stay curious. I will be back on Monday at 9:30. Have a good one. Bye-bye.